Our guest today is Mr. Bob Fioretti, Republican candidate for the office of Cook County State's Attorney. Welcome, Mr. Fioretti.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for finding time to sit down with us and talk to our Polish-American audience right now in the crunch time of the campaign. This is, I think, the most important stretch of this campaign.
Yes, it is. You feel a little bit squeezed on everything you have to do.
Sure. Let me start with a brief description of the office that you're running for. Polish legal system is totally different than American. So the duties and responsibilities of Cook County State's Attorney might not be familiar to our audience. What is it that Cook County State's Attorney does?
Well, I think a lot of people are not familiar with it. We have over 700 attorneys, 1,300 staff members. The office primarily is concerned with the criminal justice system, but we also have huge civil imports too on what we do and what should be done. We have a civil division that looks at all the civil cases affecting the county, and there are many. We have the second most important issue affecting people in Cook County are taxes. We have a tax division that looks at many of these cases and sees what's right, what's wrong too. They only have 18 attorneys, and I have heard complaints from those people. But it's really in the administration of the criminal justice system. I'm running. Why? Because I want to restore the rule of law. I want to make sure that we represent the victims of crime and support them, and finally to break this whole cycle of crime and corruption that we see in this city and in this county.
Because it is a cycle of crime and it's ballooning, and we see that firsthand. The crime is one of the biggest problems, not just of the city of Chicago, but of the entire county. And you, as a Cook County State's Attorney, will have a direct impact on how the crime is going to be prevented. Is that the correct statement?
That is a correct statement in how we enforce the law. And first and foremost, to me, we enforce the law as written. The state's attorney doesn't make up their own laws. If you do not like the law, go down to Springfield, change it then. But I am going to enforce the law as it's written. So everybody out there knows there are no playing games with anybody, no call early in the morning of a political call, just like the Jesse Smollett case and others.
Yes, and that enforcement of the law as it's written is right here at your first and the most important point in your program. The importance of written law, the avoidability of the punishment is something that must be enforced in order to keep the criminals away from repeating those crimes.
And as you just said, people need to have certainty in the law.
Yeah.
We need to follow the Constitution, both of the United States and the state of Illinois. And people will feel confident then on what's happening in our streets and communities.
The second point says that you will stand up for victims and their families, victims of crimes.
And so often, I think the democratic philosophy to me is, first of all, the criminal defendant is the good guy. The police are the bad guys. And the victims, they don't count. On November 5th, when I'm elected, I'm going to change that philosophy and make sure our victims are first and foremost, and we support them. Our police, we support them. They're going to know that they have somebody in the state's attorney's office who will support them. And then finally, I'm going to make sure that everybody knows that we break this whole cycle of crime and corruption with me in office.
Return professionalism to the state's attorney's office. You will be leading a significant group of men, and they have to lead in a professional way. You have to set a certain standard of expectations and hold everybody to it.
I have been fortunate because of my ethics to be appointed by the Illinois Supreme Court to a character and fitness committee to judge young people who are entering the profession, whether or not they can live up to the standards that are necessary to be good lawyers in the state of Illinois. I also was appointed by the Chicago Bar Association for a couple of years to serve as the hearing officer as we judge all these judicial candidates and whether or not they're qualified or should be recommended to come through our system and be judges in our system.
Point number 4 says that you will work with law enforcement, not against them. And we see that since before the pandemic, this entire notion of defunding the police, put under restrictions of them, that pretty much puts in jeopardy the mission they should be feeling on the streets.
Most people don't realize how many separate police agencies we have. People think, oh yeah, we have the Chicago Police Department. Well, I live in, I don't live there, but somebody may say, I live in Olympia Fields or so. We have our own police department. Or every suburb, there's 135 suburbs that have their own police departments. And then on top of that, there are multiple other police. We have maybe 175 different police units. But the police officers on the street who are walking the beat must know that somebody in the state's attorney's office is going to back them. I am that individual.
Yeah, because very often, and I think I'd like to spend some little time on this. I think that everybody's turning their backs on the law enforcement officers, and I think that a lot of them, whether they want to admit it or not, they're losing heart. They think that yes, we will do the best job we can, but so what if the criminals will be back on the streets tomorrow if we'll catch them today?
That is the perception, and that's the feeling. The police department has low morale. They have low-paid jobs. In the city of Chicago, you have to live in the city, so you're fighting an educational system for your kids to find a good school, and so a lot of them send them to private schools, which cost them more money. And a lot of the police officers on the streets in the city are exhausted from their job and trying to do the right kind of job.
And finally, go after corrupt politicians. It is said that it's not a difficult task to find a corrupt politician in Chicago, in Cook County. And it's going to be a huge task to put up against the corruption in the politics. Will you be able to do that successfully?
Well, I think as we can open up the newspaper any day, and especially now with the Madigan trial going on, but we've had so many different aspects of corruption. The state's attorney's office not only has the ability, but it has the duty to go after not only public corruption, but private corruption. And I want to establish a system, just like we had when I was alderman in the city of Chicago, of a bureau that overlooks it, takes the tips. That bureau, which is no longer existing, ended up making sure that an alderman was indicted, chief of staff was indicted. I also, and convicted those two. I believe there are other investigations that were had years ago that are still ongoing or in the court system. That's what we need. And people need to know that we will take that off. That Chicago, for the last 4 years, has been named the most corrupt city in the world, or in the country, I should say. And we got to take that off and say, hey, we're bringing that down several notches.
Exactly, that would be the goal. Let me circle back to your first point, enforce the law as is written. And a lot has changed with the implementation of Safety Act just over a year ago. That was a huge move. I'm not sure if it was a move in right direction, and I think that Safety Act has at least as many opponents as proponents. What is your point of view on that legislation?
Well, if I was in office at the time it was going through the legislature, which was in the middle of the night, let's not forget, the 917 pages was flopped on everybody's desks at after midnight or so. I was against it. 100 different elected state's attorneys in this state said no. Only 2 said yes.
Wow.
Cook County and Lake County. I would have been in those that had said no to that act. And I think with me in office at that time, it would not have passed, but it did pass. And so I have a lot of concerns. I have a lot of places I want to see amendments. I want to give more discretion to the judges to detain people and not let them go just because. And I will do that when I am elected state's attorney and talk to the leaders and everybody else on what needs to be amended.
Yeah, because it's not just elimination of cash bond, it's also reclassification of a lot of acts, a lot of crime. Do you think that is something that also should be looked into and amended and reversed?
Oh no, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, assault on some assaults or on a police officer, elderly
Yes.
elderly individual are not detainable. Possession of an illegal machine gun is not detainable. So what are we doing? You know, if we can have those kind of acts, and there's a whole other set that I am looking at right now.
Yeah. Let's talk about you, Mr. Fioretti, for a moment. You mentioned that you've already served as an alderman of the city of Chicago. You've been a civil rights attorney. You're a partner in a major law firm, so you have a lot of experience. But I want to dig deep and ask you for a few words about yourself and your track record as a public servant and as a lawyer.
Well, first of all, as a lawyer, I was, as an individual, I was born on the south side of Chicago in Roseland. My mother was Polish. My dad was Italian. My dad came off the boat through Ellis Island. My grandmother came here and with her husband, and my mother was born within 4 or 5 months after they arrived here. And we grew up in a middle-class home in Roseland on the far south side. I say that because my mother was fairly well educated. She spoke 7 languages.
Wow.
And on Sunday nights at our home, growing up, people from all over the communities would ask her to translate letters, whether it was Polish, Spanish, Italian. She'd translate them and then write letters back for the individuals. It was like the United Nations in our home on Sunday nights. And it was fun because you listen to everybody, who they are, what their backgrounds were. And I am fortunate to grow up in that environment. I say that I went to Mendel High School, Mendel Catholic High School, went to the University of Illinois, and then Northern Illinois Law School. I started my career in the Corporation Counsel's office. But what I say about that, I represented and rose swiftly through that office as a senior supervising attorney. I supervised hundreds of cases. It was fun. I went into private practice. And I did become a civil rights lawyer, but I handled a lot of cases. But I'm more qualified than my opponent. I have been appointed a special assistant state's attorney in Cook County, in Will County, and in DuPage County.
So you have an inside experience already.
Yes, and to represent those offices when they had a conflict, and Democrats and Republicans occupied those offices. I have been appointed a special attorney general in several cases to represent the people of the state of Illinois, both by Democrat and Republican attorney generals. They had the confidence in me, in my ability to do the right thing for the people. I've had cases that have changed laws. I've had the Baby Tamia case, which was really, in a sense, a sex trafficking case. And we got that baby back when people said it couldn't be done, and it was way back, and the baby was in Nevada. I've had cases that affect and stop chokeholds in the city of Chicago, how detectives take notes, and a whole set of other cases affecting police procedures. And so I know what the law is and what we should be doing. And my career has been based upon building coalitions of people from different political parties, races, genders. I created, through my work, an unfortunate event that occurred that a young man was killed outside of Crane High School, safe passage. And what we did in that situation when he was killed, kids didn't go to school anymore. It was down. But I knocked on 186 doors of homes of where their kids were and said, we need your kid. We're going to get them back. We had pastors, parents, police, making sure, and they did it for passion of education of their young. They didn't do it for their pocketbooks. And now we have safe passage up and down in a lot of critical areas throughout the city of Chicago. And I'm proud of what we've done.
Yeah, that's a wonderful track record.
I've also brought 8,000 jobs to my ward, and they've hired from our ward. So I've done a lot to help people, and I fight for the people of my ward, my city, and my county.
You receive a lot of support, and as you said before, you are able to talk with people on both sides of the political aisle, and it's obvious when we look at the endorsement that you are getting. Those are not coming just from the Republican side of the argument. Mr. Fioretti, who has already endorsed you, who has supported you? Are there any Polish American organizations that have formally expressed support to your candidacy?
Well, I'll start off with the last one, PAPA, which
Polish
is
American Police Association.
Absolutely. And they have recommended me. They can't endorse because they're a 501c3, but their members know that I will be supporting them. And I support PAPA in all of their events, wherever their events are. And I thank them for that recommendation.
Yeah.
I've had Reverend Jesse Jackson, who was on the first day of the Democratic Convention, was honored on the floor. It was amazing. And for him to endorse me is a big endorsement for all communities. Roberto Maldonado, who is another Democrat and a leader in the Puerto Rican Spanish community, endorsed me too. Because he and I worked together on things, and he knew I'd fight for affordable housing and I'd fight for safe streets. I've had 2 Republican congressmen from downstate, Darren LaHood and Mike Bost, have endorsed me.
Great.
One thing that runs out through all of them, they say the same word, which I'm honored to be was integrity, and all of them have used that word in their endorsements for me.
Great. And Mr. Fioretti, lastly, I would like to ask about your opponent, Eileen O'Neilberg. What set you apart from your opponent in these elections?
First of all, I think people will know that I am somebody who will make change, who will fight for our people, who will make sure that we have safe streets, we have strong communities, and thriving businesses, no matter what zip code you're at, no matter where you live, and we can do it by working together. I don't believe she's ever been out into the communities. She hasn't been seen. She may have popped up here or there, but she's not out there talking to the people about what their concerns are about crime, about property taxes that this office has an impact on, and making sure that your business is safe. And I plan on doing that. When I am the state's attorney, and I believe we can be elected, I'm going to be out in the community just as much as I am now campaigning at the same time as we administer our criminal justice system, because people need to know what is their state's attorney doing to make sure they are safe.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fioretti. Your punch number is 55.
Right.
So first and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you to go out and vote on November 5th. I encourage you to follow your heart when you're making every decision, from the very top of the bottom all the way down. And I'm very confident that a lot of you will support Mr. Fioretti's candidacy, because we share the same values. The goal that we're trying to achieve is exactly aligned, perfectly aligned. Safe neighborhoods, safe environment for us, for our children, for our businesses. And Mr. Fioretti, good luck with your campaign. I hope to talk to you again as a new Cook County State's Attorney.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.